Citations and remove your hats, please. We'll call the court to order at this time. My name is Matt Rothy. I'm the multi-jurisdictional municipal judge for Stoughton. Covers the city of Stoughton's town of Dunkirk, Pleasant Springs, and Rutland. I'd like to go through some of the procedures we follow in the courtroom. These procedures should have been available to you in the pamphlet as you entered the courtroom. When your case is called, please come forward. We take people on a first-come, first-served basis. We're here tonight to hear pleas. Your three plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty. If you enter a no contest or guilty plea, I'll review your citation, and if there's a factual basis for the plea, I'll accept your plea and find you guilty. I will impose an appropriate forfeiture. A plea of no contest is similar to a guilty plea, but a conviction arising from a no contest plea cannot be used against you in a subsequent hearing. Let me explain that. Say if you're involved in a traffic citation and you receive a citation for that, if you're in a no contest plea, that person cannot use a no contest plea against you if they sue you later for damages. The forfeitures range from $20 to $10,000. However, almost all are within the $50 to $200 range. The state mandates that we add cost to your forfeiture. For example, a $50 forfeiture results in a total cost to you of $124. I will grant you 30 days to pay the fine. If you need more time, please let me know. We can always work out a payment arrangements. I have limited options to collect. I can send your citation to state collections. I can suspend your driver's license for a year. I'd rather not do that. If you just need additional time to pay, just let me know and we can work out a payment plan. If you enter a not guilty plea, we'll set your case over to a trial for a pretrial conference at our next court session, which will be 1 week from tonight on December 20th. That pretrial conference is where you meet with the city attorney and exchange information to see if you can resolve your case. Those of you here facing traffic offenses should understand that you lose demerit points upon conviction of most such offenses. They usually range from 3 to 6 points. If you lose 12 or more, if you lose 12 points in a year, your license will be suspended for a certain period of time, and you'll also be fined. I'd like you to be aware of some of your rights before you're entering a plea. You have a right to ask for a continuance. This means that you can request that your case be set over to another date, either to consult with a lawyer for some other reason. This is a civil court. You're not entitled to a public defender or a court-appointed attorney. You may, however, hire one at your own cost. You also have a right to ask for a continuance. Actually, you also have a right to ask for a trial. Please remember your rights when considering your plea. Those of you that have been cited for operating a motor vehicle while under the influence are entitled to request a jury trial in the circuit court upon payment of the proper fees. All their cases will be heard here with the right to appeal my ruling to the circuit court. All right, that concludes my opening remarks. We'll call the court, call the first case, and that will be Janice Wegner. Ms. Wegner, do I have your correct address on Taylor Lane here in Stoughton?
Yes.
All right. You've been cited for automobile following too closely. That citation carries a penalty of $124 and 3 demerit points issued your driver's license. There's a forfeiture range on all these citations, and let me explain that to you. Forfeiture on this is $30 to $300. You're at $50 plus costs is usually what the recommended fine for this is. Do you understand what automobile following too closely is?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions regarding the citation points or fine?
No.
Now's the time I take your plea. Would you like me to review your options?
No, that's
Okay.
fine. Not guilty?
Okay. With a not guilty plea, we'll schedule this for a matter for a pretrial conference with the city attorney. That will occur on December 20th. The pretrial conference is held downstairs. It'll be a conference room marked pretrial conference on it. It's through the second, you go through one set of doors and a second set of doors, and it will be on your left. I always advise that people go take a look at the room before they leave. That way they know where it is and can find it next week. Make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, I'll find you in default and I'll find you guilty and impose those penalties then. Lastly would be, make sure it's a chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever witnesses or documents might help your case.
Okay.
All right, any questions?
No.
All right, I will give the pretrial conference notice to the bailiff, and once you receive that, that will take care of it for this evening then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Pulley. Like this thing. Just a minute, Mr. Pulley. Mr. Pulley, do I have your correct address in Harrison Court in Stoughton?
No, that needs to be updated.
What's your new address?
123 South Prairie Street, Whitewater, Wisconsin.
53190?
I believe so.
Okay. Mr. Pulley, you've been cited for disorderly conduct. That citation carries a penalty of $124. The forfeiture range on disorderly conduct is $50 and $1,000. You're at $50 plus cost. You're at the minimum amount of the citation, or the forfeiture range. You understand that?
Yep.
Okay. Do you understand what disorderly conduct is?
I understand what it is. I just don't understand.
If you have any questions regarding it, what I would suggest is a general not guilty plea. The reason why is that the prosecutor's not here, so I can't really take any testimony or any statements here, because if I do, I've heard too much, and I would have to recuse myself from the case and have another judge hear it. I'd rather
I
not
was
do that.
going to do that, and then is there any way I can do that not on the 20th?
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll enter a not guilty plea for you, and then what we will do is that, well, actually, do we have another court date?
January 10th.
January 10th?
That works.
Okay, we'll schedule this matter for a pretrial conference on January 10th. Same rules apply. Downstairs is where the pretrial conference rooms are. Through the second set of second set of doors, on your left will be a conference room, and then we'll have a sign up that say pretrial conferences for that day. Make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, I'll find you default and I'll find you guilty. And it's a chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever witnesses or documents might help your case then.
Actually, could I just change my plea to no contest?
Why is that?
I believe it's a municipal. Is that what it is? Does that go on your driving record?
It's not on CCAP or anything like that. As far as going on your record, you can't find it. It's a departmental record for that. Here's what else. I'll enter not guilty plea. If you want it, you can always just call the city attorney with the number. They'll have to do a conflict check to make sure. But if need be, you can always converse with them over the phone to see if you can resolve it then.
And then what time is that?
It's it's January 10th at 5:30 is when it's scheduled. But if you want, you can always, there's a number on here that you can call as well.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and enter that not guilty plea. Once you receive the notice, that will take care of it this evening then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. C-O-L. Justin Cole. Mr. Cole, do I have your correct address in Vernon Street in Stoughton?
Yep.
All right. You received two citations. The first one is for disorderly conduct with violence. That citation carries a penalty of $250. The forfeiture range on this is $50 to $1,000. You're at approximately $125 plus costs. Do you understand what disorderly conduct with violence is?
Yep.
All right. Your second citation is criminal damage to property. That citation carries a penalty of $187. And the forfeiture range on this is $50 to $1,000. The bond amount you have is $100 plus cost. In addition, for criminal damage to property, I can order that you pay restitution in addition to the forfeiture amount. Do you know what restitution is?
Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, that if you cause damage, I can order that you pay the amount of damage to the victim as well. Okay. Any questions regarding either citation?
No,
Now's the time I take your plea. Not guilty, guilty, or no contest.
not guilty.
Okay. Not guilty plea. We'll schedule this matter for pretrial conference on December 20th. I'll give you that notice in a minute. You've already heard this, but I want to make sure I establish a record for each person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, I'll find you default and I'll find you guilty. I always advise people to make sure that you look at their room before you go. It's downstairs through the second set of doors. A conference room will be on your left, marked pretrial conference. Chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever witnesses or documents might help your case as well. Lastly, with the restitution, criminal damage property, the victim might ask for a restitution hearing as well, just so you're aware that's some of the procedures that we might have to follow.
Okay.
All right.
There's a second.
Okay. Okay. So once those, we'll print out another notice for you. Once that's ready, we can just give that to the bailiff. That'll take care of it for this evening then.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. April 9th. Ms. Knight, do I have your correct address on Vernon Street in Stoughton?
Yes.
All right, you've received a citation for criminal damage to property. That citation carries a penalty of $187. The forfeiture range on this is $50 to $1,000. You're at $100 plus costs. You're at the, on the low end, but not quite at the minimum. Do you understand what criminal damage to property is?
Yes.
In addition, I can also order restitution, and that you would have to be ordered to pay the victim as well, and it's up to $10,000. Any questions regarding the citation?
No.
Now's the time I take your plea.
Not guilty?
With a not guilty plea, we'll schedule this matter for pretrial conference. City attorney on December 20th. I've said this before, but I'll say it to you again. Make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, the city attorney will tell me that you did appear. I'll find you default, and I'll find you guilty. Make sure that you know where the room is. I always advise people to take a look at that. Downstairs, through the second set of doors, there'll be a conference room on your left. And lastly, it's a chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever witnesses or documents might help your case. In addition, the victim could always request a restitution hearing as well. Any questions?
No, thank
All right.
you.
When you receive the pretrial conference notice, that will take care of it this evening. Thank you. Catherine Christofferson? Just a minute, Ms. Christofferson. Okay, Ms. Christofferson, do I have your correct address on Oakview Drive in Stoughton?
Yes.
All right. You've received a number of citations. Let me go through them one at a time. All right, one of the citations is for failure to keep vehicle under control. This citation carries a penalty of $136.60 and 4 demerit points issued your driver's license. Forfeiture range on this is as follows. It's usually $30 to $300. Let me make sure I've got that. $40 to $300 is what is the forfeiture range on this, and you're at $60 plus costs. All right, you understand what failure to keep vehicle under control is?
Yes.
You understand it's 4 points and $136.60 as well? Is that a yes?
Yes.
We're being recorded, so in order to clear, no, it's all right. In order to make a clear record, I always ask people to say yes or no to the questions. Because otherwise, if I make a mistake and you appeal me, there won't be a very good record in which the court can base its decision. So it's in your own best interest to do that. Second citation is for hit and run unattended vehicle. That citation carries a penalty of $187 and 6 points. Forfeiture range on this is also going to be like, let me make sure, it's usually $30 to $300 as well. The reason why I give you the forfeiture range is that that's something that I'm not bound by what's listed on the citation. I usually follow it, but not always. Actually, this is $0 to $200 on this bond amount. So you're at $100 plus cost for that one. You understand what hit and run unattended vehicle is?
Yes.
All right. The next citation is operating motor vehicle without insurance. That citation carries a penalty of $124 and 0 points. You understand what operating motor vehicle without insurance is?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Gone through. And then the last citation I have, I want to make sure I don't have any more on this one. Yeah, thank you. Is next one is what we call an OWI, or colloquially commonly known as drunk driving. The formal name for it is operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of an intoxicant. The penalties for that citation are as follows. You're facing an $861 forfeiture. The forfeiture range on this is $150 to $300. However, they add a $355 driver assessment fee on this as well. So what that means is usually the forfeiture range is about $605 to $1,000. So you're in the middle for that. In addition to operating motor vehicle under the influence, your driver's license can be revoked for 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
Not suspended, revoked. And if this was a refusal, the penalty for refusal was a 12-month driver's license revocation. And And if it was either a refusal or your blood alcohol content was a .15 or higher, then I must order an interlock ignition device be installed in your all vehicles registered in your name for a period of 12 months. Do you know what an IID is?
Yes.
Okay. And if you have to order an IID, I have to surcharge you $50 as well. In addition, you also, if you're found guilty, you must attend an alcohol and drug assessment class, and there's 6 points issued your license.
Okay.
The penalty on the 6 to 9 month driver's license revocation is usually dependent on blood alcohol content and driving behavior. Usually the way I do it is if you're under 1.5, it's 6 months. 1.5 to 2 is 7, and 0.2 or higher is 8. And then if there's bad driving, I usually add a month to those citations.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions regarding the operating while under the influence citation?
I guess on the ticket it didn't say what my blood con.
Okay, and I don't know, so
Okay.
that's usually what and since there's 4 citations, what I would suggest is that you enter a not guilty plea, because I can't dismiss any of these. Is that what you want to do?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
we'll enter a
for
not
all
guilty
4.
plea. We'll schedule this matter for pretrial conference on December 20th. And the reason why I do that is that if you enter a no contest or guilty plea, I find you guilty for all of those. And you lose your license. I mean, all the points accumulated, not only will you lose your license for 6 to 9 months, you might also lose it for a longer period of time because you're over the 12 points as well.
Okay.
So that's what we'll do. And again, you've heard me say the warnings before, but make sure that you appear at your pretrial conference, because if you don't appear, I'll find you default and I'll find you guilty and I'll impose all those penalties that we listed before. I always advise people to take a look at the pretrial conference room before you leave. Downstairs, through the second set of doors, there'll be a conference room on your left marked pretrial conference.
And that's the one like right across from the elevator, kind of.
It's kind of like kind of kitty corner from the elevator.
And then I know it's usually next week. I have a therapist appointment that day. Can I schedule it a different day by chance?
Have you scheduled it already?
The next month, you're saying January 10th would be the next available date.
If I can do that one, that would be great.
Okay.
I don't have any problems
It'll
with
take a little while if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I have to change all these.
Okay, so we'll just, and then it's a chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever documents or witnesses might help your case.
Thank
If you want to have a seat at the table, I'll have the bailiff give you the documents when they're ready.
Thank you.
Okay. Once you receive those, that will take care of it this evening then.
Thank you.
Ms. Christopherson. Jessica Copas? Ms. Copas, do I have your correct address on Page Street in Stoughton?
Yeah.
All right. You received a citation for theft, movable property less than $1,000. This citation carries a penalty of $187. The forfeiture range on this is $100 plus or $50 to $1,000. You're at $100 plus costs is where you stand on this. In addition, I can order restitution for theft cases. In other words, say if I took a candy bar from a gas station, I got cited for it, I might have to pay back the cost of a candy bar to the convenience store. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. You understand what theft is as well?
Yes, I do.
Any questions for me?
Nope,
Now's the time I take your plea. Your 3 plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty.
not guilty.
Okay. For not guilty plea, we'll schedule the matter for pretrial conference with the city attorney. Will this December 20th date work for you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll give you the notice in just a minute. While we'll print it out and we'll type it up and print it out while we're waiting for that. You've heard it before, but make sure tonight. I'm sure, but I tell every defendant the same thing. It's a chance to tell your side of the story. So bring whatever witnesses or documents might help your case when you meet with the city attorney. Make sure that you know where the room is. It's downstairs. Through the second set of doors on your left to be a conference room marked pretrial conferences. And make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, I'll find you guilty and I'll find you in default, and then you can impose that forfeiture range as indicated. In addition, the victim might ask for a restitution hearing, and if we schedule that, we'll send you notice for that as well,
Okay.
if it happens.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
I'll have the bailiff give you the pretrial conference notice, and that will take care of it for this evening then. Thank you. Tara Johnson. Ms. Johnson, do I have your correct address on Madison Street in Stoughton?
Yep,
All right. You received a citation for animal running at large.
yep.
Dogs and cats not to run at large, or animal run at large. This citation, penalty for this citation is $124. The forfeiture range on this is $20 to $1,000. You're at $50 plus cost right now. You understand what animal running at large is?
I do.
All right. Any questions regarding the citations?
No.
Now's the time I take your plea.
No contest?
You understand with no contest plea, I'll review the police report, and if there's a factual basis, I'll find you guilty?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You do not wish to contest this?
No.
All right. Let me read the police report. I want to make sure I have a factual basis for your plea.
If you see the restitution request, the victim is here tonight, and I told him we have to have a hearing for that. Just so she's aware, I have to send him an affidavit. He
Okay.
has to get a receipt.
Okay. I have reviewed the police report. I do find a factual basis for your plea, accept your no contest plea, and find you guilty. All right. Now, looking through the police report, normally I don't have a restitution request for this type, but there might be a restitution request in this case as well. That's something I will hear tonight. but-
Okay.
But,
So how does that work?
normally what will happen is that my clerk will send an affidavit to the victim if he requests it, or he or she, and if they do, they'll submit it back to the court, and then we'll schedule a hearing for that date. And then at the restitution hearing, the victim can say, this is the damages that were caused, and then you would have notice of the damages, and then you can defend against the damages as well.
So there was, the police, at the time they wrote the citation, they had named a number for restitution, is that the?
That's not something that I'm not taking that in consideration for this.
Okay.
This is just a city forfeiture that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say before I decide on a sentence?
Nope,
Okay. I do find the $124 to be an appropriate forfeiture in this. It's the bond amount, it's the standard amount. And I'll order that you pay the $124 fine to the city of Stoughton. How much time do you need to pay that?
I can pay it tonight.
Okay. I'll give you 30 days, but I'll give you the judgment of conviction. You can take that downstairs to the dispatch window
Okay.
and make payment. But if we do receive a restitution notice, notice will be sent to your present address then.
Okay,
And we'll name a hearing date for it as
okay,
well.
all right, thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Nope,
All right, that will take care of it for this evening then. Thank you.
thank you.
Sir, if you can remove your hats. Catherine Marie Miller. Ms. Miller, do I have your correct address in Lincoln Avenue in Beaver Dam?
Yes.
All right. You received a couple of citations. First one was for operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of an intoxicant, commonly known as drunk driving. That citation carries the following penalties. It carries a penalty of $150 to $300 with an added assessment of $355. Usually the forfeiture range is from between about $605 and $1,000. Right now, the amount listed on your citation is $861. You understand that?
Yes.
All right. For operating while under the influence, the revocation period, I can revoke your driver's license for 6 to 9 months. For refusal, it's 12 months, but I noticed that you have a second citation, so I know this was not a refusal. If you're found guilty, I have to order that you attend an alcohol and drug assessment class, and that 6 points issued your license as well. Now, if you had a refusal or blood alcohol content of 1.5 or higher, or a previous OWI offense, I must order an interlock ignition device be installed on all vehicles registered in your name. Cost, that's for a period of 12 months, and I have to surcharge you $50. Is this a blood draw? Okay. In addition, if there was a blood draw in this case, the penalties for the blood draw would be an additional $62.82 as well.
Okay.
Do you understand all that?
Yes.
Okay. And normally for the driver's license revocation, if I do it by blood alcohol content. If you're 1.5 or less, it's 6 months. 1.5 to 1.9 is 7, and above 2, it's a 0.8. If there's bad driving, I add an extra month to that as well.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you received a second citation for operating a motor vehicle while under with a controlled substance. That also lists a forfeiture of $861, and it's basically the same penalties: $861, 6 to 9 month driver's license revocation, alcohol and drug assessment, 6 points, and the possibility of an IID. However, I can find you guilty on both, but I can only impose penalties on one.
Okay.
So when I list that one, it doesn't double or anything. You can only receive the fine amounts on one citations.
Okay.
The reason why that's done is that it makes it more difficult to be acquitted from an OWI. You have to beat both citations, but set of penalties is only given once.
Okay.
You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So I've gone through a litany of forfeitures and penalties. Is there any that you have questions on?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, with no further questions, now is the time I take your plea. Your three plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty.
Guilty.
Okay. You understand with a guilty plea, I must find you guilty?
Yes.
Okay. And if this were, would this be your first offense, or have you had a prior one?
A first offense.
All right. What happens is, normally with second offenses, they would be considered criminal in nature. However, if more than 10 years passes, it's still considered your first offense.
Okay.
If you get, so you can get one, and then 12 years later, you can get another first. But then if you get a third, it's a third lifetime is how that works.
Okay.
Let me review the police report. I want to make sure I have a factual basis for your plea.
All right.
Ms. Miller, I have reviewed the police report. I do find a factual basis for your plea. I'll accept your guilty plea and find you guilty. I'll make the findings that there was no bad driving in this case, and there was an operating with a controlled substance. I'll find you guilty of both offenses. However, I will note that there's no blood alcohol content in this, and since there's no, the chart penalties are based on blood alcohol content, and since there was no blood alcohol content, I'll give you the minimum, which is 6 months driver's license revocation. I'll find that anything you'd like to say before I decide on the rest of the sentence?
No, sir.
All right. I'll make the finding that $861 is an appropriate forfeiture. I will order that the blood draw of $62.82 be imposed as well, because of the cost of going to the hospital and having that is billed to the city, so I always make the defendants pay for that. I'll order that you attend an alcohol drug assessment class, and 6 demerit points will be issued your license. I will make the finding that this is your first offense, based upon what I've reviewed in the record and your own admission, so there will be no interlock ignition device order to be installed in your vehicle, so you don't have to pay for that or the $50 surcharge. Given all that, I've got some forms for you to fill out if you want to step forward. These are driving assessment forms. You call this number within 72 hours to set up a driver safety plan. If you want to review that, and then sign at the bottom where it says defendant. And I have another one for you. So you keep one and I keep one. Okay, I'll trade you. Okay, I'm also going to give you assessment costs and occupational license information. Make sure I got this. Yep, that's the number that you are to call, or Dodge County.
There's a separate sheet there that has all of the
This,
information.
yeah, your separate sheets on that then, so. Okay, now before we go, we're getting to give you the
Due date.
Oh, how much time do you need to pay for this? Yeah, how much can you pay per month? Do you want to do $100 a month? Okay, we'll do $100 a month. That way you can pay it off in about 9 months then, so. that works okay.
Start that January 1, I'll send her the paperwork.
Right, okay, I'm gonna shut off the microphone. Back on. Okay. We're giving you the judgment and orders along with the assessment information. With that, that will take care of it this evening then. All right. Thank you. Colton Austin Shervin. Mr. Shervin, do I have your correct address in 4th Street in Stoughton?
Yep.
You've been cited for non-registration of auto. The citation carries a penalty of $98.80 and 0 points issued your license. Do you understand what non-registration of auto is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you registered your auto?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you have
the
that
day
proof
after.
of that with you?
I actually do. Let me grab that quick.
So you received the citation on what, on November 17th?
Yep.
How soon after that did you register the,
The next day, sir.
okay. I don't need the pick and save
Oh,
receipt, so.
Sorry.
Since you registered it right away, I'll note that the expiration date's now September 1st, 2018. Since you went ahead and registered right away, you achieved the court's goal of registering a vehicle. The court on its own motion will dismiss this case.
Thank you, sir.
That will take care of it this evening then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want a receipt to that, it's been dismissed? Or- Okay, thank you. Jacob Lawrence Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, do I have your correct address in Circle Drive in Sun Prairie?
Yes.
All right. received a citation for speeding on a city highway, 1 to 10 miles an hour over limit. That citation carries a penalty of $98.80 and 3 demerit points issued your license. Speeding is 30 to 300. You're at the minimum of $30 plus cost is $98.80. Okay. In addition, Mike, by policy for these speeding citations are to give you a 10-mile-an-hour leeway. You're already at 1 to 10, so what I would do is I would amend this to defective speedometer, contrary to 347.41. That would be 2 points instead of 3, same forfeiture amount.
Okay.
So I'm going to offer that. So you understand what speeding is?
Yes.
You understand the points and forfeiture as well?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your plea to the amended citation of defective speedometer? Your 3 plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty.
If I plead guilty, can I still, like, defend not paying it, or?
What, you don't want to pay, what do you mean by that? If you want to challenge, you could enter a not guilty plea. Are you arguing about the payment amount, or,
I'll just plead guilty.
what's that?
I'll plead guilty.
Okay, you understand with a guilty plea, I must find you guilty?
Yeah.
All right, let me review the police report, I want to make sure I have a factual basis for your plea. I have read the police report, I do find a factual basis for your plea, accept your guilty plea, and find you guilty of defective speedometer. That will result in 2 demerit points instead of 3, same forfeiture amount of $98.80, which is the minimum amount for these type of moving violations. Well, it's not a moving violation, but I think it's still the immediate minimum amount for a defective speedometer as well. Anything you'd like to say to the court?
No.
Okay. How much time do you need to pay for the $98.80?
Can I pay for it in some Prairie at the police department there?
No, it has to be here.
Okay.
You can mail in payment if you need to.
Okay.
Or you can pay online as well, or with a credit card, right?
A few months.
Okay, I'll give you 60 days.
Okay.
If you need additional time to pay the 60 days, there'll be a number that I'll give you on the form. Just call that number. Request we have to do it through a hearing. We can request more time. I usually don't have a problem with it the first time, neither does the prosecutor either, so.
Okay.
All right. With no further questions, once you receive this judgment order, that will take care of it this evening then.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brett Lee. Mr. Lee, do I have your correct address in Jackson Street in Stoughton?
Yes.
All right. You received a citation for theft movable property less than $2,500. This citation carries a penalty of $187. Forfeiture range on this is $50 to $1,000. You're at the $100 plus cost range. You're at the low end, but not quite the minimum.
Okay.
So, do you understand what, in addition to the penalty, I can also order restitution, that if you, in other words, that you have to repay the victim for the amount of items that you allegedly stole.
Yes, sir.
You understand what restitution is then?
Yes.
Okay. You understand what theft movable property is as well?
Yes.
Any questions for the court?
No.
Now is the time I take your plea. Guilty, no contest, or not guilty?
No contest.
You understand with no contest plea, I must find you guilty?
Yes.
And that I might also order restitution as well?
Yes.
All right. Let me read the police report. I want to make sure I have a factual basis for your plea.
Okay.
Okay. I have read the citation. There is a factual basis for your plea. I'll accept your no contest plea and find you guilty. Anything you'd like to say before I decide on a sentence?
No, sir.
Okay. I do find the $187 forfeiture to be appropriate, so I'll order that. I also will order restitution in the amount of $3.50.
Okay.
So total amount that it will be owing will be $190.50. How much time do you need to pay that?
I can pay it now.
Okay, I'll give you 30 days, but I'll give you the amount. If you paid the $190.50, $3.50 will go to the Dollar General store, I believe it was. I'll make that finding that it will, $187 stays with the city, and the $3.50 goes to Dollar General then.
Okay.
So what did you learn?
not to do that again.
How come?
Ever. Because it's stupid. It ruins your life.
Yeah, and, you know, what happens with a lot of these retail thefts is that, I'm also an attorney. I've been an attorney for a long time, and I know that some stores will actually pay for a lot of their surveillance by either allowed treble damages or triple damages for monitoring all that. So there's a financial incentive, and just kind of sets a bad moral tone for everybody as well.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. I'll give you the form. You can take that downstairs and pay for it now, and you got 30 days. So if you pay for it, great. That'd be great, but you do have 30 days.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any questions?
No.
That will take care of it this evening then. Thank you. Alexander McDonald. I don't. Just a minute, Mr. McDonald. Do I have your correct address on Jackson Street in Stoughton? Yeah. Okay. You received a couple citations. One of them is for resisting or obstructing an officer. That citation carries a penalty of $250. Resisting, obstructing, the forfeiture range on that is $50 to $1,000. You're at about $160 plus costs for that. Second citation, you understand all that? Is that yes?
Kinda.
Okay. Would you like me to explain anything further?
What do you mean by 167 plus costs?
Well-
Is that just because the ticket was 250? So
Yeah,
there's
250. What I'm
okay.
doing is that they add a 23% surcharge. They add $5 of jail and crime lab and all that. So what it is they set the bond amount at 250. Most others, they set at $100 or $50, and they go, and then you add, that's why it ends up like $98.80, because they end up adding all these.
Yeah,
forms.
taxes.
Yours is already at 250, so it's basically about $160, $170 in cost then. So that's just the bond amount for that. Does that clear things up?
Yeah.
Okay. And the second citation was for operating while revoked. That citation carries a penalty of $124 and 3 demerit points issued your license. Let me check the bond range on that. It's 340, 344. What each citation has, what's called a bond range, that like suggested penalties. Again, I follow most of the time, but I'm not necessarily required to do that. It's $0 to $2,500 is what that is. So you're at $100 plus costs. You're not at the minimum, but you're at the low end of the citation then. Okay. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
All right. You understand what operating while revoked is?
Yes.
And so you understand the fines and penalties for both citations? Is that
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the court?
I did get my license renewed.
Okay.
So
What I
was
would suggest
hoping-
then is I can't do that from the bench. What I would suggest is that you enter a not guilty plea, and because I'm sure the city prosecutor would be interested in the fact that you now have a valid license.
Okay, yeah, I would like to enter not guilty for that.
We'll enter not guilty plea to both citations, and so we'll set this matter for pretrial conference on December 20th. Does that date work for you?
Yeah.
Next week? Okay.
Oh, December 20th?
Yes.
I think I'll be out of town.
Okay, so we'll schedule that for Wednesday, January 10th? Okay. Schedule it for January 10th. On January 10th, make sure that you attend the pretrial conference, be held downstairs through the second set of doors. There'll be a conference room marked on your left. They'll have a little sign that says pretrial conferences. Make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, I'll find you default and I'll find you guilty and I'll impose those penalties then. And so tonight will kind of be wasted then. And again, it's a pretrial conference is a chance to tell your side of the story. So bring the documents that show that you have a valid license now, that you updated it, and then any other documents that might help your case as well.
Would I be guilty upon obstructing an officer, and then would that still make me pay the fine for my revoked license?
That's something you can talk to the city prosecutor about. Because that you haven't been,
Aren't those separate tickets where I can just enter not guilty for my revoked
I entered
license?
not guilty plea for both of those for you.
But I'm probably gonna be guilty on.
That's something you can talk about the city attorney. They might work, sometimes that's the chance to tell, you can tell, basically if you're contesting one and not so sure about the others, I always enter a not guilty plea because then you might be able to work out a good deal with the prosecutor then.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Any further questions?
Sounds good. Everything's set.
All right. We got one more report for you then. I'll be ready in just a minute. Once the bailiff hands you these documents, that will take care of it this evening then, and you're free to go. Good evening. Good evening. How are you? Good. I don't know who came in next. Looks like we have three more.
Hi, Mary.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay,
Are you here for an initial appearance? Oh, okay. Just observing it. All right. Okay. Which class? Or for what, for school? Okay. Oh, okay.
Just government.
You don't want to have an initial appearance? No.
Get the hands-on experience.
I think we're ready for the pre-trial
Oh,
conference.
wow, great, okay.
Thank you.
Is anything else scheduled to be here?
Okay, well, this won't take too long. so. Okay, I'll note one failed to appear for criminal damage to property. I won't decide restitution here, but I will definitely, if somebody requests it, then we'll leave it open, so.
Okay, Your Honor, there was no restitution requested in the police report either,
Okay,
so.
okay, good. For, yeah, it's not a Jasper Johnson, was this a refusal at all?
Yes, I believe it was.
Did he ever challenge a refusal?
No hearing was required.
No.
Okay. I think I already told, I think he knew that going in, I think I advised him of that, so. All right.
He's young.
I'll note that for Terry Johnson, he's friends with my parents, but this was, this plea agreement was within your normal course of range of offers.
Yes, Your Honor.
I will go ahead and prove it as a standard offer
Okay.
then. Okay, period. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. Okay, good. It's a fair sound. There was one tonight that had an expired registration and showed me proof that he registered the next day, so I went ahead and dismissed it then.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, I was gonna ask them if they wanted, before you leave, is there anything? I had approval. Is there any questions that you have, or do you want to review anything, or? I don't get students here too often, so I thought that this might be a good opportunity that.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sure. Thanks for coming in.
Okay.
Oh, good, good. They had a lawyer and an attorney and a police officer. I figured that they could. Some
Nah.
great advice, yeah. They completed their hour, whatever, I'm sure, so. Okay.
Teamwork.
Good. Oh, look at this. Wow, really? They all were successful? I think we should knock off early then. I've never had this happen before. Good. Look at this.
I think that's all from that one big party.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, all went together.
That's good. See some improvement there. Okay, good. I just figured some of them can get educated or learn a little bit more about it than, mission accomplished. Okay, good.
I agree.
Anything else?
Nothing further. Is there no hearings? Oh. Just hand it to the officer there.
I need to show him that one. Yeah. We just want to
Okay.
Yeah, they faxed everything.
We already have that.
Oh, they got
so-
the facts and everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if I still had to show up and everything.
No, you did not. So,
All right, so we're all good?
You're all good?
you're all good. So you complied. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll default everybody else, but thanks for coming in tonight, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
No, we don't need an officer either, so. All right, thank you. What's that? Oh, okay.
Get my email. Brandon said I was sick and I feel like my head is gonna explode.
Oh.
There's germs flying around the building, so.
I got somebody's germs. I'm not happy about it.
I wish I had germs. I've had terrible allergies the last month. I'm draining, so I feel like I'm sick, but it's not.
Do you think that's what mine are?
Well, there's a client friend that's a landscaper, and he thinks that I'm allergic to a certain type of tree. I'm always, usually in early to mid-March, I'm miserable. And I think any type of, when it's suddenly cold and then it's warm, I suffer for a couple of weeks. So that's what he thought. I've been draining for about, the last month or so.
Well, I don't feel like a cold. I just have the yucky stuff. So maybe that's what it is.
Oh.
Maybe I'll take allergy medicine instead.
Yeah. It never seems to work for me.
I know.
All right, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Aaron Beon, default judgments. William Bowens is a default judgment. Karshi Britton is a default judgment. Zachary Burke is a bond forfeiture. Besart Bitikwi is a default judgment. Eric Calkins is a default judgment. Glenn Connor is a default judgment. Adarian Davan Cousins is a default judgment. Zachariah Crookshanks is a default judgment. McCollin Curry is a default judgment. Zachary DeLorson, what's this?
I wasn't sure because he got 2 possession of THCs on different dates, so I don't know if you're gonna count that as the second one or just leave the fine.
I'll leave the fine the same. Default judgment on both. Seki Daniel is a default judgment. Tracy Davis is a bond forfeiture. Candace Deck is a default judgment, both citations. Eric Durst is a default judgment. Bruno Espasandin Lima Lima is a default judgment on both citations. Clinton Faircloth is a default judgment on both citations. Rachel Teagan Fisher is a default judgment. Thomas Gasson is a default judgment. Michaelia Christie Gayton is a bond forfeiture. Penny Gerke is a bond forfeiture. Kellyanne Grittenholm is a default judgment. Jody Ann Grums is a default judgment on both citations, or 3 citations, excuse me. Tanner Michael Hansen is a bond forfeiture. Alexander Joseph Hartberg is a bond forfeiture. Kylie Patricia Hickey is a bond forfeiture. Christina Heilman is a default judgment. Jill Jensen is a default judgment on both citations.
This one. It's another
Oh.
Johnson.
No. Almost the same age. I knew somebody in high school by that name.
It's another person.
Oh, Jill Jensen is a default judgment. Leah Jensen is a default judgment. Brett Johnson is a bond forfeiture. Kelly Johnson is a default judgment. Scott Klimek is a default judgment on both citations. Taylor Knipfer is a bond forfeiture. Jacob Lambert is a default judgment. Chad Likeness is a default judgment on battery. On all 3, forfeiture on the disorderly conduct will be 187 for the second and 250 for the third. We'll close those. Seth Lintz is a default judgment. Both citations. Micah McDonald is a default judgment. Noah Daniel Leonard Mayhew, how do you say that? Mayhew is a bond forfeiture. Angelica Makos is a default judgment on both citations. Taylor McGrain is a default judgment. Jonathan Miller is a default judgment on both citations. Anna K. Myers is a default judgment on all 3 citations. Brenda Alicia Navarro is a default judgment. Eugene Nelson IV, default judgment of both citations. Patrick O'Malley is a default judgment. Margaret Olson is a bond forfeiture. Maritza Vanku Stewart is a default judgment. Mark Plumley is a default judgment. Nicholas Polanchek is a default judgment. Kendall Pruitt is a default judgment. Daniel Riley is a default judgment. Trevor Rowe is a default judgment. Amanda Roosh is a default judgment. Heike Sane is a default judgment. Heather Schroeder is a default judgment. Bailey Schultz is a default judgment. Grace Schultz is a bond forfeiture. Brian Seekings is a default judgment. Austin Sherwood is a default judgment. Brandon Swenson is a default judgment on both citations. Matthew Swenson is a default judgment. James Euchre is a default judgment. Jeffrey Wagner is a default judgment. Braxton Walton is a default judgment on both citations. Cade Waters is a default judgment on both citations. Mara Williams is a bond forfeiture. Eric Terrell Woods Jr. is a default judgment. And that concludes their initial appearances. Anything else? All right, court's adjourned.